Let me say good morning once again, and to our listeners and viewers, welcome inside of the Mid-Morning Buzz. It's Monday, the 7th day of October. Time flies, time suddenly fly. Welcome, let me say welcome to my guest this morning here on the Mid-Morning Buzz, representing is it the Cooperative League or the Cooperative Society? I always seem to mix that up, Ms. Holmes, when you and Ms. Emmons was here for the two previous shows that we had. I know we inside a Cooperative Spotlight. That sums it off. Representing the Cooperative League or Cooperative Society?
Cooperative Department.
Cooperative Department. No, I have to take a note of that, so we know next time we come from, we get that right. Let me say good morning to Mr. Grimes. Welcome on the show this morning. You're representing this morning. Nice to have you on the show, sir.
Yes.
I always have you in a different capacity. Nice to have you in this particular capacity this morning.
Yes. I wear different hats. So today I'm here in my capacity as Senior Cooperative Officer in the Department of Cooperatives.
All right. And Ms. Holmes with us, of course, as usual. Nice to have you with us this morning once again. All right. So our focus of conversation this morning will be capital and funds of the Cooperative Society. When one speaks of capital and funds, what are how funds generated for a cooperative? Let's say a cooperative has of course started up, and they decided the funds is important also, right?
Right.
In terms of any as you say, corporate is a form of a business to a point. It's a form of a business. I've just that all members are involved. We spoke a whole lot about membership last week. Now the funds. How are funds generated for a cooperative?
Right. So the first thing, morning again to the listeners and viewers across the nation and the diaspora, wherever. We're happy to be here on behalf of the Department of Cooperatives this morning. So the first thing I want to start off is by giving a basic definition of what a cooperative is. And basically it's a jointly owned, democratically controlled business model where people of like interest, they come together, to push their economic interests, their cultural interests, and their social interests, right? So it's just a group form, a business model form, so that people can, unite and foster their economic needs, their social needs, and their cultural needs. There are a few cooperatives in our Tri-Island state. But just to be, very distinct about it, one must know, as the listening public I'm referring to now, that there are different types of cooperatives, the non-financial cooperatives, right?
Yes.
And the financial cooperatives. Everybody knows about the financial cooperatives. Most people are in credit unions in this country.
So
the penetration rate is about 80%. So 80% of Grenada are in cooperatives. So they know that. But our department really, we oversee and regulate the non-financial cooperatives. In fact, there's a lot of talk about, this is our act that guides the cooperatives, and it's for all the cooperatives, but there is talk now about separation so that the financial cooperatives can have an act and the non-financials, which we oversee, can have an act.
Okay.
So yes, just to get into it and regarding your question, there are a lot of ways that the cooperatives can generate funds. The first way, and most people know about that way, is by shares.
Yes. Share
capital. So to be part of a cooperative, you must purchase shares. For those of you in the credit union, that is what happens. So it goes the same way if you are part of a non-financial cooperative. So that is the number one way. So for example, you might purchase 10 shares and that might cost $500. And if you have 10 members, you have to, that adds up into the share capital, right? Another way that you can, find funds, obviously, very, very traditional, loans. You go to a bank or you go to a credit union, you present your business plan, and they give you monies to ensure that your business can become a reality. One can appreciate if you're really having a serious business, share capital alone cannot really push the agenda of that business. You need more than likely a significant lump sum, right?
And there's things to take care of, right?
Yeah, and unless the members are rich and they have it in their back pocket, they have to do like ordinary Grenadians and go to a financial institution. So loans are one of those ways. Another way, fundraisers.
Yes.
So you want to get some monies, you want to get some things done, you organize a cook or whatever it is, you raise some funds, and you put towards the share capital or just the money base of the cooperative, right? Another way, there are many ways, I keep saying another, there are many ways to get capital as far as a cooperative is concerned, just as any other business. But with the cooperative, it's very unique in that there's a lot of grant funding available.
Okay.
So a lot of international agencies, they look at groups, community groups and things of that nature, and they have millions of dollars just waiting for progressive groups to utilize in order to do some nation building and community building and so forth. So cooperatives, more than most other business type and business models, would utilize grant funding to really start up their business. And last but certainly not least, the actual business of the cooperative can allow for the generation of funds. So what are you into? Are you into selling gasoline? Are you into selling a particular service, cleaning services and so forth? So that's basically some of the ways, the key ways that cooperatives can generate funds through share capital, through the loans, fundraisers, grant funding, and of course the operations of the business.
You spoke a wee bit about the financial and non-financial cooperatives,
Yes.
right? Not to deviate a whole lot, but and then when you spoke it returns to grants, is that will be affordable for only the non-financial cooperatives, or the financial one can also get monies from the grants from
Right. So I would not outright say the financials cannot get grants, but in terms of the focus of how it is, this is more relegated to the non-financial cooperatives, because one can appreciate the financials. They are very liquid, very cash rich, because it's all about money. The non-financials, we have challenges with that in terms of accessing money and so forth. So this is where the international agencies come in and they provide those grants. So for the sake of being safe with it, I would say the grants are more focused on the non-financial cooperative.
Okay, great.
Yes?
They had the money, so they need it, right?
And added to that, another factor that contributes is basically you look at the criteria for membership. With a cooperative, you have 10 or more, but with a credit union or so, the membership starts from 50.
Okay.
So when you have the pool of money is there, you
understandably so. They have more members, so most likely their capital, of course, as you said, in terms of purchasing the shares and stuff, they will have more members, they will have accumulated more funds that way than a regular. All right, good.
Yes.
Now, what we could also ask again, why are these monies, when these monies are accumulated, what is they usually done with them? We have, as you said, we could probably do the various ways of raising funds. We have accumulated X amount. What is really done with those funds?
Right, quite a lot is done with those funds once they are accumulated. So for example, you raise that money, you can go to a bank and deposit the money in a bank, right? But I will just caution here that it should be a licensed bank.
Okay.
Right? So for example, one may ask, well, why do you say that? We have had history in our country where banks operated and it was not licensed by the ECCB, right? For example, Cap Bank, right? So you'd encourage people, make sure it's a licensed bank, right? And this is not just my advice, this comes from the Act.
The Act,
right?
also. Okay.
So it must be a licensed bank. Put it in different institutions. You can go in a credit union. So we would encourage, because it's a next cooperative, that you really invest in the cooperative movement and put those monies.
They grow, you grow.
Exactly, right? And in fact, we are looking at ways right now as a department where the different cooperatives, the financials and the non-financials, can partner for the development of the non-financial cooperatives.
Okay.
Because we know the financials are booming. So why not, if you're part of the cooperative movement, why not assist, quote unquote, the weaker of the two cooperatives, right? So we are looking at ways for that to happen. But to go along the question of what do we do with those funds, right? The Act also advises that when you accumulate funds, you don't just put everything in one institution. So you put it probably in diverse institutions, and it goes to the old adage, the elders might say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So the Act, the Cooperative Society Act, also advises that you don't put all the funds in one institution, right? There's a lot of guidance in the Cooperative Society Act, so it also speaks to statutory reserves, right? And there is a sort of formula that you use. I think it is 10% of the total assets, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, they encourage you to put aside some money. And again, going back to the old adage, the elders put aside something for the rainy days, right? So, for example, you realize that there might be shortfalls in liquid cash. As a business, you don't always want to go and take loans. So if you have those statutory reserves, something pops up, some eventuality or whatever it is, you're able to go into those statutory reserves and feel comfortable that the operations can continue.
All right.
In section 126 of the Act, it also speaks to establishing a development fund, right? And cooperatives are all about community building, the building of the membership. So the development fund will probably cater for education and things of that nature, where members can educate themselves. So the whole idea is development moving forward. When you're part of a cooperative as a member, the way you step in to that organization, that business, that model, you're not supposed to leave. You're supposed to be developing month to month, year to year. So the Act mandates that there is a development fund that you also pay into. Section 127 of the Act also speaks to a pension fund and it's not mandatory. This one is optional.
Yes.
But there are some cooperatives who have pension funds, and the Act stipulates that it should be a contributory pension fund where the cooperative contributes and the members contribute, because we won't stay young.
So true.
Yeah, everybody
gonna move on. I like to call it a moving on process.
Going to move on. Also, very, very importantly, what you can do with those funds, you can contribute to a charity. Something in the community, right? One must understand the cooperatives are all about building the members, building the community, building the country. So the Act, speaks to the fact that, hey, you don't just keep all the monies. Do something for a child. Give it to an elderly home. Give it to a home for the boys, a home for the girls, things of that nature.
So is that encouraged for a cooperative in terms of the money, of course, in terms of giving back to society in some way or the other, as you say, charitable institutions and so forth? Is that encouraged?
100% encouraged. It is something that, like I said, the Act speaks about. But the idea of the cooperative, that model, I cannot emphasize it enough. You would probably hear me say it over and over while we're on the program. It's about nation building, community building, as well as the building of the individual members. So charity is something that is highly, highly encouraged, and in fact the Act speaks about it. Importantly, the members also have to get something. So provided now that you make a profit, you get dividends, right, from that surplus. Now, there are times, and that's important, that provided you make a profit, because even with credit unions, which you are not here to speak on credit unions, which are the financials, as I explained earlier, dividends may not be paid based on how they do in terms of the loans and all these sort of things. And it goes the same way for the non-financial cooperatives. If you didn't have a good year, the members cannot expect that you're going to pay out, because you might bust the operations. We have seen in the past as regulators that some people may not follow that stipulated line, and they end up in a lot of trouble in terms of their finances. So once you make a certain amount of money, 100% surely the members can get back some dividends to see where the investment is going and so forth. But it all depends on how the business thrives in a particular year. So a lot of things that you can do with the funds. You can give dividends. You can create development funds for the members. You have a statutory reserve for rainy days. You can give to bodies such as churches, schools, whichever organization, old age homes, wherever you can, donate to those places to ensure that, the community builds and by extension the nation. So, yeah, lots of things you can do.
Okay. Ms. Holmes, anything you want to add? I know Mr. Graham covered a whole lot on that. Anything you want to add on?
One of the things I want to point out, though, is that, as Mr. Graham was alluding to the fact that you have those funds and persons get dividend and stuff like that. Whatever you have to give any member, it must be, that's after you have done your financial. It must be within that particular financial year.
Okay.
If you does not have that surplus within that year, you cannot say, okay, the cooperative have money, so we're going to take it out from elsewhere.
Okay. That's interesting. Between that particular financial year. Because the next year to come is a totally different period.
Because normally what you find is that persons, members would say, okay, well, you have money there, give us more money. So sometimes even with the credit unions, people may take the chance to go ahead, but it's a violation. Okay. And sometimes if they don't do it, the members would not understand and they would say, okay, why are we not getting it? But the regulators would say that you cannot give because you did not realize a surplus for that particular financial period.
Okay, understandably so.
Yeah.
My next question goes along the lines of cooperatives, societies owning property. How feasible is that to happen? Or can they, or do they, does a cooperative society own property?
Yes, they can. Mm-hmm. They can invest in, as I say, one of the areas that the question prior, when you ask some of the things you can do with the funds, you can invest.
Okay.
You can invest, and investment does not limit you in the sense, in terms of you only invest in one particular thing. You can invest in properties and stuff like that.
Okay,
so
great.
yes, you can invest.
Yeah, and just to add, a cooperative is a very, very versatile business model. Mm-hmm. So yes, definitely you can own property, and you can own it in different ways. You can buy it cash. Mm-hmm. You can buy it on credit, as most organizations do, particularly when they are startups. You can lease. You can lease, and we have seen there are many different ways that you can own different things within cooperatives. Because, for example, one cooperative got a deed of gift, correct? Right? There's a next one that there is a lease with government for 99 years, and we have another one where they purchase the land and they are purchasing more as we speak to expand in a different parish in the country. There are various ways and means of cooperatives owning property and owning land, and we have, as a department, see the versatility has definitely been demonstrated by those that we regulate.
All right, and it all benefits the membership as a whole also.
Of course, it benefits everybody. With a cooperative, I don't think anyone gets the short end of the stick, whether it's the community, the country, or the members themselves. Right. It's about development. Okay.
Also, there's a question of what sort of assets can a cooperative own in terms of assets? Because everybody will say, yes, we say you can own a building and so forth, as you said, in terms of property. But what kind of assets can a cooperative own?
Well, you have fixed assets, land, building, vehicles, furniture, etc. Just name it.
Anything that you decide that you want to own as a cooperative, it is possible.
That's right.
Anything.
So
you're not is there any limitation that comes in there when it comes to the ownership of assets that the Act will say, well, because of the Act that you cannot have this particular thing as asset? Is there any limitation that comes with that as a cooperative?
No, there's no limitation. The sky's the limit. So
once you have the funds, you can.
Yeah, you want to buy a plane, you can have it also.
Of course.
Once you can access it.
One of our model cooperatives, that's the CTEC. That's Miss Holmes oversees that one, and they are doing very, very, very well. They operate in granates on the highway, and they employ a few people well. So they we spoke about the community and the country. They employ a lot of people, right? At least 45 workers are at the CTEC gas station on the highway. And guess what? They are opening right now. They have purchased land and they are building in Canal Road. Is it Canal Road?
Yes,
St. Andrew.
In St. Andrew.
Right. So there's a big project going on there. So the service to the community up there, plus you provide employment in terms of construction and then long-term employment. Whatever they are putting down there, it could be a variety store, it could be a next gas station. The board of directors, they are quite innovative. So yeah. And if they want to build, I heard talks about building one in Carriacou too. So anywhere they want to go, there is no limit on that. So the act does not limit that.
And I like the part of where the members are the one that benefits a whole lot from this.
Yes.
The membership is important. The membership benefits from that. It's like it's not a one-off individual owning anything. It's all part of the membership of the cooperative.
Yes, it's a business model where we talk about one man, one vote. It's very democratic. So the truth is, when you have groups, sometimes certain personalities rise to the top. Leaders emerge and things of that nature. But the very model of the cooperative, we have an equal voice for everybody. So, for example, if you have a little bit more shares than somebody, when it comes to voting at an annual general meeting, that does not mean your vote will outcome a particular.
Doesn't mean you get a 2-to-1 other
very
nature.
Democratic one. Yes. So
true.
One man, one vote.
Now, can a cooperative invest or deposit in other businesses?
Yes, it can. You can invest in credit unions, central credit unions. And other cooperatives that are registered under the Banking Act, Insurance Act. You can invest in those companies, because you see, one of the things that you have to be very mindful of is that the Act can guide you as to who you can entrust your monies in, because the safety and the soundness of members' funds is paramount importance.
Okay.
So they can stipulate or guide you as to where it is. They specifically tell you banks operating on the Banking Act, because you have a kind of safety there. Insurance Act, Cap 150. A central credit union, because these are institutions that are well regulated, right? So they guide you into that thing, because, as I said, safety and soundness of members' funds, cooperative funds, are of paramount importance.
Okay, great. Anything you want to expand on that, Mr. Grant?
Yeah. So, as Ms. Holmes rightfully said, you can put your monies wherever. We would encourage, put it in a credit union. Yeah, because it's part of the cooperative. And if you're not comfortable there, you go to a bank, whatever it is. And one must know, GT, that most high-level cooperatives and even those startups who are aspiring to greatness, they have investment committees. So, for example, the CTEC, which I spoke about earlier, right? They have an investment committee. Hence the reason they're able to, as the Act stipulated, not just have money in one place, have it in different places, and then have a vision as to how those monies can be used to develop the cooperative.
Okay, I understand.
Years. So yeah, there are very few restrictions in terms of the cooperative, that cooperative model. In fact, if anything, it has more freedom and it has more benefits than other models in terms of doing business, right? And it is one that is very, very resilient. So, for example, we have credit unions existing for a lot of years, generations, right? So these sort of models are very good. And yes, the credit union is financial, but we also have non-financial cooperatives that have stood the test of time and are growing and expanding as we speak.
All right. Well, that's where we're going to take a wrap for today. Anything in closing? Especially, we spoke a whole lot this morning about capital and funds in cooperative society. Anything you want before we take a wrap this morning? Anything we probably missed that you probably wanted to highlight before we take a wrap?
Well, I would just want to encourage those interested in groups interested in forming into cooperatives to contact us. We have a Facebook page, the Department of Cooperatives, or you can call 435-8779. On that page, you can get information as towards email and things of that nature, so you can contact us. So I just want to thank you, GT, for having us on, for this discussion on this platform. We know you have a very, very broad audience. And again, we here at the Department of Cooperatives, we are ready and willing to assist all groups outside, rich, poor, middle income, low income, high income, in terms of forming cooperatives. Is an important component of economic development in our country, and we are here to serve.
Ms. Holmes, always quiet as usual. Anything you want to say before we take a wrap this morning?
Well, I just want to thank the viewers and the listeners for tuning in, and hope that we did justice to our program this morning, and see you next time.
Sure. I want to thank you both once again for coming on the program this morning. Pleasure to always have you, of course, talking here on a Cooperative Spotlight. And our main focus this morning was on capital and funds. We spoke a whole lot in terms of, how funds are generated. We spoke a whole lot about that. How when monies are accumulated, what you do with it. Spoke a whole lot about that. We also talk about, of course, can a corporate society, own property. Yeah. And of course, the definition of course, answers was given to that also. The sort of assets that a cooperative can own, and of course, can cooperatives, invest and deposit in other institutions. We spoke a whole lot about that. So thanks a whole lot. So we hope the listening and viewing public out there who are probably thinking about forming a cooperative, they grasp the general ideas of the do's and don'ts and what they can do to make the life for themselves and their families a whole lot better.
Of course.
Yeah, all right. Hey, folks, that's where we take a wrap for this edition of the Mid-Morning Buzz. Join me again. We do have a second edition coming up. Make that my third for the morning anyway. Coming up next. Stay with us, folks. That's where we say goodbye.
Ever wondered how Grenada can reduce its food import bill? What steps are we taking towards self-sufficiency? Join us this Monday on Beyond the Headlines as we dive deep into Grenada's ambitious plan for food self-sufficiency. What challenges do we face in achieving this goal? What innovations are on the horizon? Don't miss this enlightening discussion that impacts us all. Tune in to Beyond the Headlines this Monday at 8:30 p.m. Your questions matter. Join the conversation by calling 440-1252. Let's explore the future of food in Grenada together. Beyond the Headlines, 8:30 p.m. on Monday.
Coming up, a food odyssey like no other. Getting the most out of cruising. St. Lucia's Peaks. Boosted businesses. Serving up the best. A great place to rest. Another take on shrimp. It's all next on this station.
As Grenada grapples with the devastation of Hurricane Beryl, Season 3 of GBN's Our Climate Reality program is focusing on the impact of climate change on small island developing states. Join us on GBN Television, K105 FM, and our Facebook page and YouTube channel for Season 3 of Our Climate Reality, Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Compliments, Grenada Paper Products, and Classic Lighting.
My name is Amanda, and I smoked while I was pregnant. My baby was born 2 months early and weighed only 3 pounds. This is the view I had of her in the NICU. My tip to you is speak into the opening so your baby can hear you better.
Is more than just a storm. So when a hurricane is coming, please prepare your home. You can do this by having an emergency kit ready, covering your windows, trimming your trees, clearing your gutters, reinforcing your garage doors, installing a generator, and knowing your evacuation routes. Failing to do so can lead to immense damage to your home. Thank you, and please stay safe this hurricane season.
Coming up, a food odyssey like no other. Getting the most out of cruising. St. Lucia's Peaks. Boosted businesses. Serving up the best. A great place to rest. Another take on shrimp. It's all next on this station.
Hey, let me say good morning once again to our listeners and viewers to Classic Radio GBN TV. Of course, it's a mid-morning buzz. A bit of a busy mid-morning buzz this morning. And with us this morning, we have Mr. Farmas, of course, the chairman of the Grenada Housing Authority.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir. And welcome to the mid-morning buzz. How are you this morning, sir?
Quite fine.
Quite fine.
Yeah.
Our conversation this morning will deal a whole lot with Project 500. All right. My first question was going to tell us a little bit about Project 500 and, of course, what makes it unique compared to, other housing, initiative in Grenada that maybe have existed before.
Well, Project 500, this is a housing project. It
Yes.
is under the Housing Authority of Grenada. The mandate that we have is to try to make something that is affordable. Mm-hmm. And that means that there's a wide range of people that we will take into consideration. But what makes Project 500 unique is that there are about 4 arms, 4 divisions, 4 sections of Project 500.
Okay.
That takes a lot of different areas. So Division A is a division that we would build these communities on government lands or housing land.
Okay.
And I'll take you all the way through to Division D, where individual persons who have their own lots and want to use one of our designs, which is very new to any of the development. Mm-hmm. Project 500 would build the model on their lot.
Okay.
So in that way, you could have homes all over the island using Project 500 design on people's private lots, or we could have big centers where you could have 30, 40, 50, 80 homes built with our styles as a development. So I think that is one of the elements that is probably very unique.
So to any other housing projects?
Any of the other housing projects that you would have before.
Yes.
Normally it stays in one little area.
Yeah.
The other thing is that we look at the fact that we're going from 2 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms, giving families a chance to decide a larger array of options.
Okay.
Many housing development before didn't have so many bedrooms.
Most of them offer a 2-bedroom.
So most of them offer the 2-bedroom, maybe a 3, but most of them offer the 2-bedroom option. So we understand now that in this modern times, sometimes people live with their grandparents.
People have extended families.
People have extended families, right?
And
and that we leave room for that where that is the concern, you know.
Yeah, people want to have their own space, as some say sometimes, right?
And again, and we want to have their own space, especially when you have boys and girls in the home and all of that sort of stuff of different ages. When they started off young, they might all share the same bedroom, but as they get bigger, they give them their own. So there's a myriad of different reasons why we go that way. And then we have multiple designs that is not a cookie cutter sort of like every house you go down on the block looks almost the same.
All right.
So we have so those are the aspects that make it a little bit different. But to the next point is that what we're going to do is that we're going to be doing a show site. It's called Phase 1 in Dunfermline.
Okay.
Dunfermline will have 2 sites, and in Phase 1 we have 17 homes that we're doing, varying sizes and type, and people will be allowed to come in and see it, kick the tires, open, go through, say I like this one, because each one is being built with a different mechanism.
All right.
So we're experimenting also with different types of building. We're not just going with blocks, the regular way. So we're doing different types of buildings.
So there'll be wooden buildings?
Well, we're not going with wood, but we're going with materials that is resilient, climate smart.
Okay. All
right? Things that will allow you to be cooler inside, yet still stand up to the elements, right? Stand up to termites, and all of these other little things. So that's what. But additionally, what would make this project particularly different is that we're looking at getting everybody who's coming in getting their own solar panel, storage for water. That sort of stuff have not been built in per se into housing developments before. So we have taken it one step further in this modern times and say, look, how do we make it more resilient? As people say, climate smart. And and at an affordable cost.
It's interesting to note because most time this would leave up to the individuals who build their home to get that in. But if the homes come pre-equipped with those things, it makes it more easier for an individual just go in and settle. If I could say it in that particular way. You go in and you're settled. I mean, there will be tweaks that you will have to do being the homeowner. It's only obvious, but it gives you a home that is unique unique in some form or the other. And as you speak about the Dunfermline and you said multiple homes, it'd be like as a show project, we could say more or less, to show folks what the houses will be like. So
Dunfermline would have 3 aspects to Dunfermline. Starting now, we have started building the road, and very soon the foundations will be built. The 17 in Phase 1, 17 units are going to be built.
Okay.
Right across the road from Phase 1 is Phase 2, where we have 80 lots. And currently now the surveyor is cutting out the road for that. By in the next month or 2, you will have it the roads being excavated and so on to be built. And then next to that, we have in a park.
Okay.
A park that is going to be 15 acres of a recreational park where you can go in the afternoon with your kids. You have cabanas, you have gazebo, you have swings and all of that stuff that you can go, and it will be laid out, an area where you can barbecue. That would be a first for St. Andrew. There is no such arrangement currently. So that will be built out at the end. So there will be a public park. Within the Phase 2 development, they have green spaces. That's for the development itself.
Okay.
They have some lots that are not going to be developed, and they will remain at green spaces. So if people from the development there want to camp out or want to do something, they can do that inside those green spaces.
Okay. So it'll be like a housing development.
It is a housing development, and it have several facets to it.
All right. Okay. Interesting to know. I'm happy to get that. Now, what are the main driving force behind launching this particular project, if I may ask, and how does it aim to meet the growing housing needs to our communities?
So the name is Project 500, but we're not limited to 500 homes. It's just a name. The origin of that comes from the government, and they seeing the need to have more affordable, increasing the housing stock in Grenada and make it more durable against the weather, hurricanes, the quality of homes that people are available. But one of the important factors is that people take for granted that you could just build, but the availability of land is a critical factor. There are a lot of people who want to build but cannot find land and cannot find land where they want to build. And what we have done is a study that shows that people in St. Andrew will prefer to build in St. Andrew. Yeah. And people in St. David will prefer to build in St. David. And people in St. So what they say is that where you grow up is kind of where you would prefer to live. So true. Not necessarily in the same village, but in that
particular vicinity,
parish or vicinity or so. So in that respect, we are now the driving force that if we can get persons who are not otherwise able or would take a very long time to be able to afford, if we could have put this in front of them and build at a cost, importantly, build at a cost cheaper than if they were going to build it themselves. And that's what makes it affordable. Okay. A quality of home that is cheaper than if they were going to build it themselves, build it faster.
All right.
We would be meeting the demand.
You know, you speak a wee bit about affordability there. No? So affordable housing is a key aspect of Project 500.
Yeah.
One of the key aspects for affordable. Can you explain how the project is designed to offer quality homes, I should say, and accessories at accessible prices, I should say also, and what options are available to families? If I get that question in particular.
So there's two things. When we analyze building in Grenada, and you could just sit down and think about it, just about everything that you build with comes from outside, except water, gravel, and labor.
Yes.
Right? So
we just import labor sometimes.
And when it gets bad, we import labor sometimes. Right. You're correct about that. So there's limited opportunity to reduce the cost if you're buying everything from outside, because you're dependent on what is being sold outside. Now, what is being sold outside comes through 1 or 2 middlemen before it gets to you.
Yes.
So Project 500 is looking to deal directly with the factories.
Okay.
Directly with people who manufacture.
So we're looking at a reduction in cost.
So we're looking at a reduction in costs, yes.
For starts, yes.
Right, to start. Then the second way is your big cost is labor. So if you build in a house in 8 months, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, and I could deliver this house in 1 month, immediately the labor cost goes down. And secondly, in ordering, because I'm doing hundreds of homes, I am getting a better deal because now the manufacturer will give me at a lower cost. Let's say those.
Because you got quantity.
Because I have quantity.
You got quantity.
Right?
Yes.
So simple factors like that would allow us to give you a home that is more affordable than if you would have built it for yourself.
All right.
So that would be what. What's the last part of that question?
Well, it was also talking about the option of the availability to families.
The families. And I talked a little bit about that in that. Because we have multiple models, multiple layouts, families, this is about income, right? And we are making sure that the number of bedrooms and the fact that the homes are coming with driveways, and when you build the area, you have sidewalks in the area that nobody's walking on the road, and it makes it a safer environment.
Okay.
Have green spaces, the family could know that their child is playing in the thing right down there. That sort of environment, it would come with some level of a covenant of what you can do, what you can't do. But that's all development. There's no such development where it just,
It leads to me asking this question also. Could a family who's interested in having one of these houses or these homes built, could they put their own input into the design, or is it coming with a specific design?
Right. So that is the limitation of a development doing something. Like if you're in the U.S. and you go down one of the streets, you more or less have to take their design.
What everybody else,
what everybody has, right? So we're giving you multiple designs for you to choose out. But we are working on a possibility of like having a standard and then like having an upgrade.
Okay.
Trying to give persons maybe within the same type of home a couple of choices where not for structurally wise,
have their own innovation put in between.
But give them that option. But if you see, you would lose the affordability part or the cost factor if you have to order a million different things.
I get your point.
If you order in 5, then you get the benefit of having volume.
Okay.
So,
but it would be a way that when these are built, would it be designed in a particular way that a particular family, after a while, if they may have completed their payments and so forth, and decide they want to tweak their homes and for themselves?
Right.
Would that be an option?
Right.
Would that be an option in the designs?
I think that is being looked at because that question has been asked to us. We know for a fact that in a development, we would not want you to expand forward because we want the look
of being consistent
with the area.
Yeah.
So we're looking at expanding back.
Okay.
All right. You could add put addition. So where in the design you can put an addition is also being looked at over time.
All right.
So you're not bound. But another thing that I would say that is unique, actually I forgot that, the size of the lot. So we are looking at lots between 5,000 and 8,000 square feet.
Okay.
Previous developments of that sort of nature has been much smaller. Used much smaller lots. Yes. So that people have our lot coverage is about 22 to less than 25% of the lot.
Okay.
Physical planning allows 40% lot coverage. So you have space on this lot to expand and you don't
the various tweaks that you want to do
various tweaks and you don't feel crowded.
Okay, great. Now there's a community engagement meeting that is coming up. I understand it's going to be on the 23rd of October. Tell us a wee bit about that.
Okay.
Tell us a wee bit about
so we're putting out an announcement to the people in the area, St. Andrew area, Dunfermline area, for a community meeting on the 23rd of October at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Come out. And we will explain more about the project. We will explain to you how the project would impact you or how you could benefit from a project like that, increase services. Because if you put, let's say, 80 or 90 homes in an area, and you multiply that by at least 2 or 3 persons per home, you have a large opportunity for shops, for supermarkets, for different sort of stuff to come in there, So there's that. And then if you put in a park, then people understand that there's benefits coming to the general person, even if they didn't have a house in the development. So we want their input. We want to make sure that we take care of, we hear what they would like to see in the park. We would like to hear how they are concerned about how the rest of the area will be treated, because we can't treat one area one way and then there's an existing development in Dunfermline. Housing Authority has probably over 50 homes already built there. So we are now expanding that development and using 30 acres of our land, giving 15 acres to the park and 15 acres, just about a little bit more than 15 acres to houses.
All right. Interested to know. And part about the 500 Project 500 that interests me a whole lot as an individual. I like the idea where you can come to the housing authority and be part of getting it built on your own lot.
Yes.
Which will take a lot of the strain off the housing, having to look for a particular, or maybe you want to hold the same particular design, but you want it in your own, your own little environment.
Yeah, it will be our design.
Our design.
But on your own lot. Because, your father may have left it for you, your mother may have left it to you, or you have bought it over the years and you just the cost of the bill is too much.
Yes.
Yeah. Another thing that we're looking at is buying land. So you might not be able to buy 10,000 square feet of land at $10 a square foot. That's $100,000. But if I take that 10,000 and split it up into 2, if I buy land for $10 a square foot and split it up into smaller bits, let's say 5,000. So you'll be able to buy a 50,000 lot.
Yes.
Instead, right? So now that is one of the benefits of making land available, is that we take a large section, split it up into manageable lots.
Yes.
And now people could pay for it. But on your own, if a man's selling 10,000, you can't break it up, right?
That's what he's selling.
So these are
you could buy what you need in terms of the size.
In terms of the size of right. So that's why we say somebody doesn't have a home doesn't mean that they can't afford a home. It just means that first you have to get land.
Yeah.
And if
you
there is not availability of land, you have to find it. You do. Another thing that we're looking at as a policy is that if people continue to build, like some years ago, there were some farmlands and farm roads. And when they started to build farm roads, people started to build homes all the way up in the hills. But then when they build homes all in the hills, you have to bring water.
Yes.
You have to bring electricity, and et cetera, et cetera. But if we leave the farmlands for farming, and we have our communities in areas that are already set up, it's easier on the government, it's easier on the utility, that we have people in central areas, in central located areas, and the government don't need to build a million little farm roads all over the place, roads, because somebody start off with 3 homes and they're walking down a track, and then you come out in the morning on a rainy morning, they have to change their shoes because there's mud they're coming out through, and all of that. We could get away from some of that if we have, but it's where they have land, and if that's where they have land, and but if we move to have these central areas, a structured housing development, it will be better for all.
Okay, great. Mr. Thomas, I want to thank you a whole lot for being on the program this morning and sharing information as relates to Project 500. I'm sure there are listeners and viewers now may have gasped the general idea behind Project 500, because there's much more that individuals need to find out about this.
There's much more.
And that's where folks are invited to come out on the October 23rd and gain knowledge in the St. Andrew area. And I'm assuming there'll be other pockets meetings.
There'll be other meetings at other times.
Around the island at different areas.
At different areas at different times. And you will hear more of me on the radio and television and more ads come out. But I would invite people to visit project500.gd at the website, and you will get there's a lot of information there, and you could register if you interested in owning a home, if you're interested in having land that you want to build on, etc., etc.
All right. And it just coming in and have a conversation also.
Yes.
That's the key part of it. I want to thank you once again, Mr. Thomas, for being on the program this morning, and it's a pleasure to have you. And as you said, we're probably going to have you back again. Probably yourself and other individuals coming in and speak more as relates to Project 500.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir.
No problem.
All right.
Take care.
Hey, folks, that's where we take a wrap for this edition of the Mid-Morning Buzz here on Classic Radio GBN TV. Join us again for another edition. That's where we say goodbye.